Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and wait till you see what I found today. It's unbelievable how corrupt this country has become. I wait till you see what I show you in this video. Just found it this morning. All right, first I want to show you this. You're looking at Coin Paprika, and I've covered this before. One thing that's very interesting about XRP and XLM is that they always track each other, and they don't track the rest of the market typically. Here's both of them hit their all-time high on January 4th, 2018 at the same time, 1,877 days ago. If you go down here and you look, you'll see, if I can find it, where's Stellar? Stellar's gotten way on down the list, but I think I missed it. Come on now. Did I miss it here? There it is right there, sorry. Okay, January 4th, 2018, 1,877 days ago. And then if you look at the return rates for the year, XRP 41.21%. As you go down to Stellar, right here, 47%. So they always stay pretty close, pretty tight in a range. I've always found that interesting. Well, eGrag Crypto put out a tweet about this. XLM price in comparison to XRP. I've been following XLM for a couple of years, and I observed that the price of XLM is on average 30 to 40% plus or minus from the price of XRP. If this is the case below is my XLM price prediction. The more XRP moves, the more XLM moves. I think that these two are kind of interchangeable in that I think if one of them is successful, both of them are going to be successful, and vice versa. But he's got, like, say, XRP $3, XLM $105, XRP $5, $175 XLM. Let's take the good numbers. $17, $595 XLM, $27, $945 XLM. I love the look of that, and that's how I think this story ends up, too. Now, does anybody remember Lowell Ness? I'm going to refresh your memory. This is Lowell Ness, who is the attorney, the crypto attorney for A16Z, Andreessen Horowitz, which is the firm that was behind getting the Ethereum free pass, and this was his story. This is Lowell Ness.
So Jay went on the warpath to these scathing speeches and calling out the industry and everybody. So, but he then, after talking to Grunfest in a fireside chat at the Stanford campus, made his way over to see Andreessen the next morning, and this is the part that now not a lot of people know. And he invited Chris Dixon to round up the industry players who were really kind of trying to do it the right way, and asked for a couple of things. One, essentially, lay out in a very detailed, written, footnoted memo what existing law says about utility tokens, and two, give us a proposal for where to go from here. And so Andreessen, I've been representing Andreessen in all of their crypto investments since the beginning, and so I got the chance to be the one to write all that stuff. So and I pulled in Cooley, and I pulled in a couple of other law firms. So we've now got a nice little working group of law firms that are in the space that are doing this. The general reception I think we got when we visited the SEC back in April was actually really positive, and full decentralization. And that's what the Hinman speech, which tracks my memo pretty well, has come out and said. And the Hinman speech has generally said, okay, decentralization, we think, gets both Bitcoin and Ether out of securities law status.
That was what the goal. That was what the goal was. So the current crypto market has been dictated by a bunch of guys with conflicts of interest out the wazoo. Remember, he was A16Z's attorney. As far as I know, he still is for crypto. He's sitting across a table from Bill Hinman, and he helped He wrote the memo that got Bitcoin and Ethereum the free pass. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to remind you about those conflicts, but listen to what he says here.
And there's a question that I really wanted to ask you.
This is from 5 days ago. He looks a lot different, almost as if the ETHgate being exposed may have affected him.
It's along the same lines, but kind of slightly going in a slightly different direction, is in and around XRP and Ripple. What are your thoughts? Is it going to have an impact? Is it going to drive markets? Is there going to be some kind of a bubble bursting? Is it the dagger in crypto, or is it a breath of fresh air?
Well, gosh, I don't know where these court cases are going to wind up. I think, I sort of alluded to it earlier. There's a lot of these cases floating around that the SEC seems to be taking this more of a approach of allowing the courts, frankly, to make the decisions. And by bringing these cases, they're turning it over to judges. And maybe that's the right answer, but it's, at the end of the day, we're going to figure out, I guess, through case law, what is a security and what is this mutability mean and where are we going to go from here? But whether it's the library case or the Ripple case, I think there's some really important questions about, even if something might have been a violation on its facts and circumstances at the time, is it still a security, today? And that's a really important, I think, question for a lot of, all the Coinbases of the world that are trading all these utility tokens. They want to know, are these things securities today, or have they transitioned to commodity status? And I think that's a very big open question, honestly, in the case law that cases like Library and Ripple may start to shed some light on. And, it would have been nice if the SEC sat down and really thought this through and came out with a position. That's sort of what we had advocated, is let's come up with a, more of a rulemaking safe harbor type approach that makes sense. But it's really hard to do that. I mean, it's in some ways throwing it to the court.
But we had to get Bitcoin and Ethereum through the door, because that's these are the people that we represent. We had to. The question is, did they promise Bill Hinman an A16Z job?
Because it was probably always going to end up there. You probably wouldn't have come up with a thing that pleased everybody anyway. So we probably would have wound up in court. But that's where we are, and we're going to see what some of the judges think here. And some of the cool open questions are, when you look at an investment
think about how insulting this is. This guy and all these people sat in a room with the SEC, and they decided that they would give this fake guidance for Bitcoin and Ethereum, and that's what the market is as we sit here today, 3 or 4 years later. They would give this fake guidance, then they would make everybody else have to go through a lawsuit so that they could have a monopoly on the market. That's exactly what they did.
Type security. Historically, when things were an investment contract, we just didn't do them. We just didn't move the project forward. We just said, "Oh, sorry, you're violating securities laws." But with the advent of crypto, we now have this crazy product market fit for things that could arguably be investment contracts. So we are having to figure out what that means. Like, we don't have line item disclosure requirements for investment contracts. We have it for equity type securities and debt type securities, and that's it. And so it really becomes an interesting thought experiment in terms of, gosh, what are, investment contracts? What's material to the holder of the investment contract? The issuer doesn't always have all the answers, when you're talking about something that's completely decentralized, where the value proposition of the token is dependent on a whole bunch of projects that are creating the demand for the project. It sort of becomes this decentralized thing that nobody really knows what information is going to move the market, because the features and functionality are just not moving the market anymore. It's really demand. And once that demand becomes totally decentralized, you have a very interesting problem. So that's, I think, figuring out where and when and how these investment contracts change from being investment contracts to a non-security transaction when you sell the token is a tough one.
All right, and then in this clip, he almost suggests that there's going to be a new Howey test, like maybe a Ripple test.
You're kind of suggesting then potentially there could be a new Howey moving forward. Is that fair to say?
It's really the same Howey, but just with some of the open questions answered. That, there's only so many cases and so many issues that have been decided on this topic of what is a security. And those cases that are out there leave open some of these questions that relate to investment contracts in particular. that's where I think we can see some case law actually being significant here, is answering some of the open questions on investment contracts.
You're kind of suggesting then.
All right. Now, here is the golden clip right here, folks. This one right here is the one, okay? Do you know how long the SEC lied in court and to the media and said that the Bill Hinman Ethereum speech was his own personal opinion? Do you know how long? I think Bill Hinman said that in his deposition in the Ripple case. They lied for I think it was about a year about that issue, and then tried to backtrack. Here, Lowell Ness tells you exactly what happened when he sat across the table from Bill Hinman at the SEC.
In my playbook these days, in fact, honestly, ever since I sat across from Bill Hinman and he sort of said, you know, we're gonna accept your proposal to give some guidance here, I stopped giving guidance. I said, let's be consistent with the SEC's hand wave approach here, because that's who matters. You know, when you get into court, like, the court's going to give deference to the regulator. Nobody wants to. I mean, I get that. I really do. And my heart is in it. I love the academic arguments about whether or not something should be a security. But I just think, honestly, to be pragmatic here, you should just treat it like security and be done with it and move on, because we all know how to do that. And so that's, to me, the path of least resistance right now until case law changes.
So think about that. A16Z's attorney sits across the table at the SEC from Bill Hinman, okay? And Bill Hinman says, I'm going to accept your proposal, and so we're going to give a framework that just works for Bitcoin and Ethereum to get those out from under the securities laws. And then he just pops up, Bill Hinman himself pops up, and he becomes a partner at Andreessen Horowitz, the same firm that attorney represents. And this is what Americans are putting up with from this agency. Unfreaking believable. And then you got Gary Gensler come in. Now, this is for all you Ethereum guys out there that think Gary Gensler, it looks like, I don't know, but it looks like he might be throwing Bill Hinman under the bus now. But that doesn't mean, we don't know. He hasn't done anything against Ethereum. This might just be all talk. Might just be trying to cover his butt. Can Gary Gensler survive crypto winter? And I'll go ahead and tell you, it'll make you want to throw up, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to make it appear that Gary Gensler in his meetings with FTX, he was just being real hard on them and not letting them get away with anything. Yeah, okay. Well, look at this clip out of this article. I said, uh-oh, Ethereum. This is Gary Gensler. Everything other than Bitcoin, Gensler told me, you can find a website, you can find a group of entrepreneurs. They might set up their legal entities in a tax haven offshore Ethereum. They might have a foundation Ethereum. They might lawyer it up to try and arbitrage and make it hard jurisdictionally or so forth Ethereum. In other words, there are people behind these cryptocurrencies using a variety of complex and legally opaque mechanisms, but at the most basic level, they are trying to promote their tokens and entice investors. Ethereum, Bitcoin, because it's of its unique history and creation story. Well, that's exactly what it is a creation story. Gary, you need to call Homeland Security, because they met with the four founders of Bitcoin, the four creators of Bitcoin, the four Satoshis. That's all you got to do. And then Bitcoin comes out from under protection too. They might drop their tokens overseas at first and pretend that it's going to take 6 months before they can come back to the U.S., he continued. But at the core, he argued, these tokens are securities because there's a group of middle and the public's anticipating profits based on that group. Now, folks, let's not forget, one of the people that, as I recall, Gary did not like what they were doing was the Luna guy. Wasn't he doing that out of South Korea and thought he was out of the reach of the SEC? It seems like I remember watching an interview. But guess what? If BitBoy was right, FTX came and saved the day. BitBoy said that FTX was behind the collapse of Luna and a lot of the other crashes. And they just happened at the same time to be meeting with Gary Gensler, who Luna was out of reach of, as far as hurting them in any way, right? I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button. Tell your friends and family it doesn't get much shadier than all of this. Thanks for listening.